surprised that Clemson, for lack of a better phrase, punched first. They kind of came out, took control, and then pretty much controlled the game from start to finish. I don't want to say it was never in doubt because it obviously was, but this wasn't a situation where the lower seeded team, hung around and then made some shots and then got lucky. They won the game for 40 minutes, basically.
I was surprised. Yeah. I mean, this Arizona team has some volatility to it. The way they play offense, they play an up-tempo style. Tonight in particular, they shot a ton of 3-point shots, ended up finishing 5 of 28 from 3. And that was, to me, the story. Clemson kind of ran out a zone defense, and Arizona just chucking shots, settling. They just had no answers for that. Brad Brownell, after the game, said he felt incredibly fortunate, which was about right. He more or less was alluding to the fact that Arizona had a really, really tough night shooting the basketball. Again, finished 5 of 28 from 3-point range. They play this game again. Arizona probably, I don't know if they win this game, but they certainly make more than 5 3-point shots just because this offense is so potent. But on this given night, Clemson played better. They punched first. They held them off late. Arizona just did not have the offense to kind of keep up in this game.
So I was in studio, obviously, tonight. That's why I'm in a tie. It's also why we're starting late. I apologize. And at one point, Brent Stover, who was hosting tonight, asked me, so if you're an Arizona fan, like, how do you make sense of this and how do you view the season? And that's always a difficult thing to try to do, particularly after it ends so abruptly. But it's difficult to do because this is a sport where we play basically for 5 months. And unless the end is good, the first 4 months don't matter. And if the end is good, it's almost like the first 4 months don't matter. Like it's North Carolina played in a national championship game a few years ago. You might remember.
Yeah.
North Carolina did not have a good season, but they had a great tournament.
Right.
And then every year there's teams that have great seasons, but don't have great tournaments. Purdue last season's a great example of that.
Yeah.
And I think Arizona right now is that as well. Some of it was when your best player is Caleb Love. You leave yourself a little susceptible to this.
Yeah.
He 5 of 18 from the field, 0 of 9 from 3. Don't put this all on him because it's not all on him.
Yeah.
But when Caleb Love is your best player, he's going to have some great nights and he's going to have some rough nights. That's the story of Caleb Love. And when he has the rough nights, he ain't going to stop. There's never a moment where he's going to go, I missed the first 8. Might not take this one. He's going to keep doing what he does. And if it's not going well and you're playing against a competent opponent and there's other things also not going well, then this is the type of thing that happened. I don't want to pretend that I predicted this because I didn't. But earlier today, when Norlander and I did the Eye on College Basketball podcast on CBS Sports Network, I did say, if you look at Arizona, they, before this game, had lost 8 times all season. Now it's 9, obviously, and that'll be the final number forever. But heading into this game, they'd lost 8 times. And 7 of the 8 losses were to sub-30 KenPom teams.
Right.
And Clemson was, I think, before tip-off, top 25 at KenPom, certainly top 30. So my point was, Arizona should win this game. Arizona is the better team. But they've lost a lot of games to a lot of teams, just like Clemson or even worse. So, be careful. And then what happened. And so now the question becomes, how do you view Arizona's season? It was a great season with a bad ending. It's the same thing I said about Virginia a few years ago, about Purdue last season. It was a great season with a bad ending. And I now know that that's 3 years for Tommy Lloyd at Arizona, 2 conference championships, 2 conference tournament championships, incredible seeds in every tournament, and he loses to a lower seeded team every time. Hasn't made it to the Elite 8 yet. I got it. But I don't know if you saw his post-game interview with Allie LaForce. I loved it. I hope they pull it and use it going forward the same way we constantly pull that Dan Hurley press conference moment where he says, you better get us now because it's coming.
Yep.
Allie asked Tommy, I don't remember the question exactly, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but at the end of it, Tommy said, listen, we didn't shoot the ball well. And, when you do that, sometimes this is the type of stuff that can happen. But this is the part that I zeroed in on. He said, we will be back in this position many, many times.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that firmly.
Yeah.
And what he seemed to be suggesting in a humble but confident way is, I'm not rattled by this. I know other people are. I've even seen it in the chat tonight since we started talking. Tommy Lloyd, built for the regular season, not built for the NCAA. I don't buy any of that. I think it's all nonsense. I think the nature of this event is going to always lend itself to, Oakland over Kentucky, right? That kind of stuff has forever happened and it will forever happen. And sometimes those kind of things happen to the same programs over and over again in a way where it starts to feel like, well, maybe this guy really can't do these things. I will never forget, and I've told this story 45,000 times, but I will never forget talking to Billy Donovan after he won his first national championship. And one of the things he said, and I guess I could have just looked this up, I didn't remember it. He clearly remembered it. He said, do you realize before I won this national title, I was eliminated from the first or second round of the NCAA tournament 5 straight years? Not get out of the NCAA tournament first or second round. I couldn't make the second weekend 5 straight years. He said, Google my name. I'm paraphrasing here, but he was like, Google me. It was out there. Can Billy Donovan win the big one? Mm-hmm. Oh, Billy Donovan can't get out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. That's all they said. And then they did. And then they won the whole thing. And then they won the whole thing again. And now he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer someday, right? The point Billy made to me was, if you keep building teams that are theoretically good enough to advance, to go deep, to go to a Final Four, to win a national team, if you keep building enough of those, eventually it'll happen for you. You're going to need some luck along the way. You're going to need something to bounce your way. And sometimes it's not going to bounce your way, and that'll be the years where you lose in the round of 32. But if you keep building top shelf teams, eventually it will happen. And it did for Billy. I believe it will for Tommy. And there's a long list of guys who couldn't do it until they did.
Right.
I can remember going on radio in Kansas City over and over again, and they would ask me pre-2008, do you think Bill Self can really win the big game? I swear to God. Like, when's this guy going to break through? Can he do it?
Scott Drew. Yeah.
I don't want to say every guy because that's not true, but there is a long list of guys. Bill Self, Jay Wright, John Calipari. Hey, are we sure this guy can do it? Right. He ain't done it yet. Well, let me tell you what they are doing. And this is what they were all doing. Billy before his title, John before his title, Bill Self before his title, Tommy Lloyd right now. You know what they were all doing? Building teams annually, rather consistently, that are theoretically good enough to go to Final Fours and win national championships. And eventually, because those men kept doing it over and over again, it broke through and happened for every one of them. And I just keep this. It'll happen for Tommy Lloyd someday. If Tommy Lloyd coaches at Arizona for 15 years, I do believe that he will win a national championship. He's built 3 teams already. He's been a head coach 3 years. He's built 3 teams already that are good enough to do it. Yeah, it just hadn't happened. It will. So if you want to get your little jokes in now about Tommy Lloyd can't do this, can't get them in now, because eventually he's going to bust right through that thing. I promise you.
I don't know. Dan Hurley's still coaching at UConn, so this dynasty is never going to end for the UConn Huskies.
Well, that could be the other problem, is that just UConn never loses again. And then nobody ever gets to win anything ever again other than Dan Hurley at UConn. But, on the flip side of this result is, a Brad Brownell who's lived on the hot seat for, it feels like, forever. Yeah. And so there's a guy who people have been wondering, like, should he even keep his job? Like, every year I do a hot seat list, and every year I'm like, hey, Brad Brownell, it's good to see you again. Can't believe you're back here, but here you, and this will cool it, at least temporarily, and just take that, set it aside. It just couldn't be happier for the guy. Like, I can't imagine. It's not easy living with job speculation all the time. Have you ever, I don't want to get too personal, so I won't even ask that, but like, if you're ever in the last year of a contract, and you're like, hey, where's this, have you ever had people where this guy has been like more or less in that place for year after year after year? Like, I'm here right now and I really like it, I don't know if they'll want me back next year.
Yeah.
Let me go coach for my job. Like, that's a hard way to coach. It's a hard way to live. And he has found a way to be comfortable in that space. And now it's just happening for him. You know, was there any point in this season where Clemson looked like one of the last 8 teams that'd be playing? No, of course not. Of course not. But that's where they're at. And what I love most about this Final Four in Los Angeles, you know, you just sort of find, I mean, this Elite Eight matchup in Los Angeles, you look for something, and if it ain't there, then you try to find something else. What did I want to watch? I wanted to watch Caleb Love against North Carolina. I thought that would be awesome. Yeah. But what will I now watch? I'll watch Clemson, Alabama, and that'll be equally awesome because either a Clemson program that most people have never really taken seriously, or an Alabama program that has been really good. Keep in mind, they were the #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, like, you know, recently. Yep. And this team, though, looked nothing like ever being capable of that because their own coach a month ago said, we don't guard anybody, if you guys didn't know. And now here they are. One of those programs is going to the Final Four, and that's awesome.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's a great story for Clemson, obviously, Brad Brownell. Clemson's second Elite Eight appearance in program history. It's their first since 1980, GP. Were you alive in 1980?
Just barely, but yes.